Hey, Dennis, how are you? Welcome to the Transformation Business Show with T. Allen Haynes. And my guest today is Dennis Thurman. He's one of the co-authors in the mega book deal, Essential Wisdom. And Dennis, welcome to the show, buddy.
Well, thank you. Just a little note. I use the name Denny rather
Okay,
than Dennis. So, although
absolutely.
all this stuff shows up as Dennis, but I go by Denny.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for that. So, Denny, just a little background for the audience. I want to welcome everybody that's taking the time to check us out today. Dennis is the creator of a thermal can and bottle wrap insulator, the Alligator. His name is derived, or yeah, the name is derived from skiing and leg boot insulators worn by skiers. That's pretty interesting.
Actually, let me interrupt you right there.
Okay.
For going back in history, soldiers used something that went between their pants and over their boot to keep things out, and they were called gaiters. Later, skiers used the same thing to keep the snow out of their boots before, pants were made with sort of an integrated slide over elastic bottom to them that kind of did that function. But so those were called gaiters. And so when I first started skiing, we used gaiters to keep the snow out of our pants. Of course, we were skiing in jeans and coveralls and things like that in those days.
Oh yeah.
And so one day, kind of came up with this idea. Somebody had taken a bandana and wrapped it around their can, a can of beer at a party. And my buddy and I were talking about it, and we said, "Well, that's kind of like a gator for your beer." Only you being from the Detroit area, where we were right across the river from Canada, we had things called ales, ALES. So we called the product Ale Gator, and we used an alligator as a symbol for that, and it became a product which ended up in every Walmart, Kmart, 7-Eleven, you name it, across the country.
Yeah, that's awesome. I could tell you exactly where a couple of them are in my possession. So, and I remember wearing those gaiters skiing Yosemite and Big Sky, Montana, and absolutely. So you're also the CEO of Bisalign Strategies,
Right.
and you work with leaders and you help them create strategic plans and development, and you help them implement transformational programs and catapult businesses and leaders forward. So give us a little background about that and how you help them do that.
Well, Tracy, when I started that business, I had, as a college kid, I'd studied chemistry, physics, and biology. And of course, that prepared me very well for everything I needed to know about business. Bottom line is that I had to find answers to a lot of questions as it pertained to business. And so I would go to outside consultants and trainers and people like that helped me learn in the areas of leadership and management, marketing, IT, finance, those types of things. And I was in that can cooler business, and of course it went way beyond the alligator product itself. But I was in that for 19 years, and one of the things I recognized and I developed a passion for was the people aspect of business. It turns out that if you have a great product but you don't solve the people equation, you'll probably fail. And so getting people aligned and focused on what's most important became part of what maybe led to my success. At a certain point, I decided that I wanted to be one of those guys. 19 years of experience. I wanted to help other businesses jump some of the hurdles that I had experienced. And it turns out that an awful lot of business people are really quite simply guys who had an idea and decided to act on the idea. And
Sure.
maybe they had a skill in a particular area, maybe carpentry, maybe plumbing, maybe, well, you can just name the number of places. And in the end, they end up having to be business guys, not carpenters and plumbers. And so, like myself, they had needs to learn about things that would help them succeed in their businesses. So I went to work for a company right after I got out of, my company's name was Practical Products. I went to work for a company called Management Action Programs, and they had been instrumental in helping me align my business, get my people focused on what they needed to do to manage well, to manage their parts of the business, strategic planning, and a variety of things. They invited me to come and work for them, so I went to work and found a great deal of fun and passion in it. Obviously, the hard part was learning how to sell that concept to a business owner. Some business owners have pretty high ego levels, and getting past that's always a challenge. But it turns out that everybody has fears and worries and concerns and needs to learn, continuous need for learning. So eventually I left MAP and started Bisalign Strategies and Consulting. And I've been doing that for, I want to say, 16 years. And then in addition to that, I also have gone to work with a company called Vistage, V-I-S-T-A-G-E. And Vistage is a group that was founded in 1957, and their specialty is forming and facilitating CEO peer groups. And they're a worldwide company, and we have 21,000 CEOs that are members of small groups, usually about 8 to 16 members in a group. And it turns out it's been my life passion. It's just been a fantastic ride.
Oh, that's awesome. So these Vistage chapters, are they local, or are they, how do you
get
involved with that?
As a matter of fact, Vistage, every group is run or facilitated by a chair, and that's my position within Vistage, as being a chair of a group. And the groups are local. In other words, it might be that in a very rare case, a member could be 100 miles away from where the rest of the members are. But more likely, they're 30 to 50 miles in radius, and they get together and meet on a regular basis, meaning once a month for an all-day session. We have a variety of top-notch speakers from around the country and around the world that come to speak to our groups. Usually they spend 2 to 3 hours talking and helping us become educated in a particular area. And then the rest of the day is spent in what we call an executive session, where the members bring to the group things that they're concerned about, things that they're considering, strategies they might want to implement, and they bring that to another group of like-minded, unbiased individuals who are simply there to help them make the best possible decisions.
So it's kind of set up like a mastermind, yeah?
Yeah, in fact, I would say it might be the grandfather of the mastermind concept. I'm not sure.
So that leads us right into your expertise that you're sharing with Essential Wisdom, but share with us, congratulations on being selected to be a part of this project. Share with us how that evolved and how you were attracted to that project.
Well, I was involved in a group on Facebook that, a lot of the people are followers of Tony Robbins and personal development. And one of the people in that group was a guy named Dave Gould. And Dave reached out to me in private message and said, "Hey, Denny, we should talk sometime. I'd like to get to know you a little bit and find out how you got to be whoever it is you are." So we set up a Saturday morning phone call, and I got on the phone, and Dave turns out to be a cool character. We talked about skiing. We talked about, growing up and being adventure type people. I spent my first 10 years out of college being a full-time skier out here at Snowbird Ski Resort. And anyhow, we connected. And so in the process, Dave said to me that he was considering creating a book, and that he was seeking people who maybe had some wisdom in certain areas for the book, and asked me, and I was very flattered, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, I've had to write a lot of content for the work that I do, but I've never considered myself necessarily a writer. I have occasionally, some people have said you should write a book, but I really never did think about it that way. So Dave says, "Hey, I'd like you to consider writing a chapter in the book." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I will consider that." I began to think and ponder what I might write about. And I don't know how much you know about the story, Tracy, but the basic idea is there's a young man that is denied. His name is Lucas Hamilton. Came from a fairly well-to-do family, and he expected that he would be pretty well set for life based on that fact. And instead of giving him an inheritance, his father sent him on a journey to find wisdom. Felt that that would be more valuable to Lucas than the money he might give him. And in the process, Lucas was given a bunch of connections or names, or in some way or another, people who might be able to impart wisdom to him. And so in learning about that whole idea, I thought, well, if a guy like that came to me, what might I offer him in terms of wisdom? And of course, all of us, yourself, Russ before, all of us have a variety of gained wisdom through the years that we've lived. So picking a topic, that's kind of tough. But I thought about it, and I recognized, because of that work that I do with Vistage and facilitating peer groups, while the whole idea of leadership development and training, and the whole idea of organizational communications and all of those things that I've worked on in Invisalign, I often wondered, well, what value could come from just a room full of people, talking with each other? Well, it turns out it's a ton of wisdom that comes from things like that. So when Lucas came to me, I talked to him about the power of peer groups. And one of the things that you might not think about, or if you've never been involved in one of these things, is it's not just a group of friends that sit around and talk, because we all experience that on a regular basis. There has to be a reason. There has to be, the members of the group have to be carefully chosen for their willingness to be honest with each other, to be vulnerable, to suspend judgment, to be completely confidential. In other words, what happens in the group has to stay in the group. Otherwise, people not bring to the group the kinds of things that can be worked on that really can transform and make a difference in life, in business, in relationships, and in people's futures. So that's what I decided I would write about, and kind of a how-to of selecting people, how-to of setting up groups, some of the basic ideas. I mean, there's no exact right way, wrong way to do this, but you certainly need to get the right people in the seats and have a way to do it.
Yeah, that's very important. for those that are just joining us, we're speaking with Denny Thurman. He's a co-author of the book Essential Wisdom. He's also a key member of Vistage. And Denny, those are great points, because that peer group, I mean, it goes back to some of the greatest business training ever created with Napoleon Hill, where he talks about masterminds.
Yes.
And I think, Lucas Hamilton at his age has probably never even heard the word mastermind before. So it's, the people that are going to pick up this book in the future are going to get a true insight of how powerful a mastermind is by your submission. So
yes,
thank you for providing that.
I certainly hope so. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what do you see, you were honored to be a part of the project and participating. Where do you see the biggest impact happening with, we're looking to touch 100 million lives. I mean, that's a pretty huge number.
Spectacular.
It's, where do you see this going? I mean, what's your feelings on that?
Well, from a concept perspective, I was kind of okay with the idea when Dave first gave it to me. We had, I don't know, maybe it was 8 months ago or so, kind of the lead-in or the chapter which kind of describes the whole Lucas's life and how Lucas was sent off on this journey. And at that moment, it was like somebody, and I hate to use this analogy, but somebody put a needle in my vein. I really wanted to know and continue to find out what happens with Lucas Hamilton. The opening chapter is so compelling, and so what I think is a whole lot of people who maybe are not driven by the whole personal development or that sort of thing may hear the story of Lucas Hamilton and decide, I want to know more about Lucas Hamilton, and begin reading. And if they have the same experience I had in reading that first chapter, that it's very likely that they're going to go on this journey with Lucas. And as a result of going on the journey, I think that, and Tracy, I believe there's 33 authors who are bringing value to the book. And as you know, we all tend to discount ourselves at some level. I think that's a human characteristic. I think, okay, peer groups, that's important. I don't know whether it's the most important, but I am anxious. I am thirsty, personally, to read what the other 32 are going to talk to Lucas about. And so what I expect to have happen is, for some, they may read that first chapter and then they'll quickly go to the contents and start reading about, let's see, I really need to know about, that's chapter 21. And heading off to chapter 21 to see what happens when some particular author talking on whatever it is they're thirsty for at the time. So I believe it's going to be a resource book. Some people obviously will begin to read it like a novel and go on the journey step by step all the way through. Others, but I believe it's a book that will stand on bookshelves, and people who read it will probably buy for friends and give to others, because that's the kind of gift we all want to give each other, gifts which change lives. I just think I'm very passionate about the idea. And I'm, like I say, I'm thirsty as all get out to find out what everybody else is contributing. I really am.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate your passion and sharing that with us. So in these peer groups, what are you finding some of the challenges are when people come to you and they want to, you said they have to open up and be really, open for instruction or open for criticism. What are some of the challenges you're finding with people in these groups?
Well, the first thing is that, and by the way, the peer groups that Vistage offers are different than many others because we use a professional facilitator. I've gone through very extensive training to operate a peer group and to do one-on-one coaching with these CEOs. The first thing is that process, and of course I go into some detail in the chapter about this, but the process of finding out what's really behind. Somebody might bring a problem that is really just an apparent issue. It isn't the real issue. And as a result of that, they might be saying, how do I do this to the group? And through facilitation and through the process of truly seeking to understand the problem, everybody in the room or several people in the room might be thinking underneath all of it, the question that he's asked is not the problem. The question that he's asked really has to do with something else that's going on in his life, or perhaps something about who he is. And so at a certain point, I say, do we all understand what we think is going on here? Now, we might ask the guy who brought the first problem, is that the problem? Or would you like to rephrase your question? He might say no, because he still doesn't see what others are seeing. And then I'll say something like, does anybody else in the room think there's a different question here? And one or two might say, well, I think that there's a problem here with Joe's ability to actually delegate with true authority. He keeps stepping in and taking over, and then he complains about the results the guy is getting. That might be an example of something. So what is it about you, Joe, that means that you're not willing to let go, that you don't trust the others? Is it a trust problem? And that can be a big issue for leaders. Sure. Leaders who don't necessarily have the kind of trust. The bottom line is, what you find out in a group like this is it's really working on people. It's working on individuals. That's why I think the chapter is good for the book. Not everybody who reads the book is going to be a business person. In fact, most probably won't be. Or maybe everybody works in businesses of some sort or organizations. Maybe they'll get some ideas that can help them there. But the truth of the matter is it goes deep in terms of the kinds of things that you work on. You might find out another type of thing that comes up, and I don't know if I've answered that question.
Yeah, absolutely.
But sometimes, if you think about it, if you're not happy at home, what kind of leader can you be at the office? Or if you're really unhappy at work, how do you come home and be present with your family? If you can't be present with your family, what's the impact then? Not things aren't going well at work, now they're not going well at home. It's a very lonely spot that leaders have in organizations. And so the opportunities to really dive in deep and get some solutions. And then another piece of it, the last piece that I think we can talk about, is if you make a commitment to a group that you're going to do something to change the way you're reacting with your son or your wife or with your subordinates or in some way or another, the group is going to ask you, how's that going? There's an accountability piece that comes into this, which is really where transformation occurs. I think often, and I mean, I don't know what you think about this, but it's the person we're least likely to be accountable to is ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when you have a peer group, what it does is it increases personal accountability, because somebody's going to ask you, did you let yourself down again? Are you still doing that?
Perfect. Well, we just got about a minute left. I want to thank you for all those golden nuggets, and we're super excited about reading your chapter in Essential Wisdom. If somebody wants to reach out to you and interested in what you do, how can they do that?
Well, I would suggest that you consider going to my website, which is biz-align.com. That's biz-align.com. And you can, there's a way to click there to get, send me an email if you like. I believe there might be a phone number even on that website. So that's a good way to reach out and find me. And I'd love to talk with anyone out there that that is fascinated by what we talked about today, because that's what I'm passionate about.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. I appreciate you finally connecting. And again, we look forward to your contribution to Essential Wisdom, and congratulations again on your participation. So thanks for being on the show.
All right, Tracy, and thank you for having me. I just want to send a wish out there to everyone that's, we're all on a journey, and we're all trying to seek wisdom and find ways to be graceful human beings. And for all of you out there, I hope that you find that for yourself and for everybody around you.
Awesome. Great message. So there you have it for this edition of the Business Transformation Show with T. Allen Haynes. We're here every Tuesday at 10:30 Central Standard Time. Thanks a lot for coming in and sharing the time with us. We'll see you the next time. Thank you.
Yeah.